Om. 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 Shanti. 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai, Shri Guruve Namaha. Om. I bow to the indwelling spirit within each and every one of us. May the divine guide us to realize the message of my master, that humanity is the uniting religion, breath the uniting prayer, and consciousness the uniting God. If that happens, when that day comes, then there will be peace on earth and no struggles among humanity. Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat. So welcome to this sharing. Today I'm going to share with you my experience and understanding of the Buddhist and Hindu Tantric paths, as well as the tradition of the Siddhas. Now, there's really not a very clear path of Siddhas. When I talk about them, you realize that all the Siddhas are fairly unique. They're pretty much, doing their own thing. And that's one of the greatness about the Siddhas. They really don't trod anybody else's paths. They create their own way most of the time. And they find their own realization. Okay, so it's more in their tradition of what they believe in and what they're teaching, rather than any particular methodology or technology or pathways that they are sharing with us. Although there are exceptions, and we'll talk about that as well. So it's interesting that, when I started on my spiritual journey in my early teenage years, it was because I was very much struck and upset about the passing away, the deaths of my grandfather and my favorite maternal uncle within a couple of years of each other. And I was very, their deaths somehow struck me and affected me, such that I was quite depressed and was not motivated about life as much. And the only thing I could think of is, what's this all about? And, it seems like death is waiting for us, and we don't know when it's coming and what's going to happen after we die. Where did we come from? Those were questions that actually automatically came to me, even though I was quite young. And in school, I was attracted to the story of the Lord Buddha, Siddhartha, Gautama Siddhartha, and how he was influenced by seeing an old person, and then a sick person, and then a dead body, a corpse. And these three experiences made him give up his princely role, and he went off to find his realization, his nirvana, his moksha. Okay, so liberation from the cycle of suffering, because once he achieved his liberation, once he achieved his inner knowing, he realized that the world was full of suffering. It doesn't matter whether you're a beggar or a prince. And that always sort of struck me. And so I was decided to look into his message. And so I was studying a little bit about Buddhism and what the Buddha taught, okay, at that time. And it so happened that a group of Buddhists in Hong Kong, they were affiliated with a Tibetan Buddhist group. And I went and attended a very important and affecting a session that they were sponsoring at the main hall in the city hall, actually, of Hong Kong. And the speaker was Dujom Rinpoche. Now, Dujom Rinpoche was a great realized master. He was the holder and head of one of the four great sects of Tibetan Buddhism. He was the sect leader of the Nyingma Path, okay, the oldest sect of Buddhist Tantra in Tibet. And although he didn't speak in English, there was a translator who translated what he said. But it wasn't what he said so much as just his presence and the effect he had on me. Okay. Much later, I realized that what happened was that he was giving a Dharma transmission. See, that's the difference between when you listen to a talk only, or where a great realized master is transmitting his experience and his knowledge, his inner knowledge, not knowledge from books, but the knowledge that comes from deep inside, from his emptiness. And so I felt it. I didn't know what it was, but I felt it, and it was only many years later I understood what I had received. And when he left, when he was going away, he gave each and every one of us, there were not many of us at this gathering, there were very few actually, maybe 20, 30, and he gave each and every one of us personally a little booklet that has his photo and a signature from him, and encouraged us to go on the path. It was quite stirring, and I was very much affected, but I did not have opportunity at that time to do much about it. Although I kept, there was no written material about the Nyingma Pa, and there was very little in that time about Tibetan Buddhism in the West in the English language. It so happened that when I journeyed to the United States to pursue my university education, and I attended UC Berkeley, I rented a room in a house on College Avenue. And lo and behold, I mean, the landlady, he had plastered all sorts of Tibetan posters and tankas in the house, in the common areas. And it turns out that she was following a Tibetan Lama who had come to the US and set up a institute, a little teaching institute nearby in the hill just above Berkeley. And that that was how I was able to also pursue this Nyingma path in Berkeley, and attended this Nyingma Institute and met the founder, Tarthang Tulku. So I think he has retired now, but anyway, at that time, it was very influential also, and he taught many people, wrote many books. And I think he even founded Dharma Publishing and did a lot of good work. And so it worked out that I was able to practice this Buddhist Tantric path. And as a reference, there are 4 main groups of Tantra. There are minor ones, others, but 4 main ones. There's the Nyingma, which I've practiced, and that's what I'm talking about. And that was the Dujom Rinpoche's sect. And it was the earliest sect founded by the great Indian Tantric master, Padmasambhava. And he is the root guru of Nyingma. And he went to Tibet at the urging of the king of Tibet, and to establish Buddhism in Tibet. And Padmasambhava was able to do that. Then there is the Kagyu sect, the Sakya sect, and finally the Gelugpa. The Gelugpa sect is the one that most people know about, because that's the sect that the Dalai Lama, he belongs to the Gelugpa. Okay, and the Gelugpa sect is actually considered the newest one of all the major sects in Tibetan Buddhism. Okay, so in any case, so I started practicing, and even after I graduated and went to work, I was always practicing this sadhana. And my sadhana consisted of taking refuge in the Guru, in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the Sangha. Okay, the Guru in this case is not the teacher who gives it to you. It's actually the root Guru, who is Padmasambhava. Okay, so we take refuge in Padmasambhava. And Padmasambhava is considered by many Buddhists, especially the Tibetans, as the second Buddha. And he was actually a royal prince and king from Udyan in India. But anyway, so I would do the refuge. Then I would do grand prostrations, usually 100 times at one time at each practice session. So grand prostration is you stand up and then you bow down on your knees, and then you spread out the whole, so your forehead touches the ground. And then, of course, I also take refuge or do a mantra at that time. So 100 of those, and then we would do generation of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the compassion. It is the mind of compassion or consciousness of compassion. Depends on the level you're at. And to generate this compassion for all living beings. So there's a technique and methodology in that. And one of them is to meditate that everyone that we know has has in one lifetime or another been our mother and breastfed us and taken care of us, changed our diapers, and helped us grow up. And as a mother, we owed them a great debt, as we owe our mother in this very lifetime. If every being that we meet may have been a mother to us at some lifetime, how much do we owe them, and how much we would like to help them to be happy and not to be suffering. Okay, so love is when we want somebody to be happy. Compassion is when we want them to be free from suffering. Okay, so we generate this bodhicitta from that practice, and then we have to do Vajrasattva Purification, which is to purify our energetic and mental fields, okay, with a 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva, and with some visualization as well. And finally, there is a Guru Yoga, where we actually visualize a mandala of Padmasambhava, and we try to form that mandala, the whole of it, which has him in his regalia, and with all the different auspicious symbols, with his two wives and his disciples. And so it's a very complex thing. And by the time you think, you visualize one part, another part has, disappeared. And, it's like you keep trying to juggle a whole image, in your mind. And it is a great exercise to develop your concentration and go into a meditative state, actually. So that is a Guru Yoga. Of course, there's also other things you do with mantra, and also absorbing the divine Guru and then letting it go and things like that. So the whole practice would take about over 2 hours, that my sadhana, and I would do it before I go to work. And so I'd get up at 4:30 or something like that, and then finish it and have breakfast and then go to work. So that's that was my sadhana. It was a very useful sadhana, which I pursued seriously for some years, and then not so seriously for a couple years as well. That happened after I got married and had children, and things happened, and so my sadhana slackened off, and I was not able to do the same level of sadhana, but I still achieved a certain level of minor achievement, what we call, in the sadhana, instead of a major achievement. If I had been able to pursue longer, I may have been able to get greater fruit from the practice. But I did achieve certain states of consciousness, and what we call a minor achievement rather than a major achievement. Okay. Now, one of the things that happened, and that is of interest, is that around 1980, while I was doing the Guru Yoga, the image of Padmasambhava morphed into a different image. And I did not understand what was going on, but it was a very fantastic Indian-looking guy with a turban, big beard, and looked very strong and powerful person. But Padmasambhava sort of was still in the background. I could still sort of see him, but then this other image came forth. And that happened quite a few times, not all the time, but it came a few times. And also there was a message came into my mind. And because of that message, it changed my lifestyle and what I was going to do with my life from then on. Okay. And so it had a great effect on me. Now, it so happened that I, of course, had no idea who it was, and I lived my life. I got married, I had children, still pursuing my work, changed jobs 3-4 times, and then it was only about over 12 years later that I actually saw a poster, and I was very attracted to this person, this image on the poster, and I had no idea why. And I went and met my current master, my real master of this life, Yogi Raj Gurunath Siddhanath. And I, because of all the things happening in those intervening years, I was not sure why I wanted to take him as our guru, as my guru, and but I just had it in my heart that this was the right thing to do, and I took him as my guru and pursued the teachings and the path, the Siddhana Parampara, the Guru Shishya lineage that he represented. Okay, and it was only a few years after I met him that, and I heard the name Padmasambhava again. It had been many years since I had heard his name and saw his image, and immediately it came to me that the visual, the darshan I had so many years ago was of my master, and he had a great connection with Padmasambhava. That's why he came through Padmasambhava, and that they were very much connected. And that made me realize a lot of things, and it established me into a better understanding and a different level of enlightenment. Just realizing that particular truth, that it was my Guru, Satguru, reaching out years ahead to set me on my life path so that I would be able to meet him later on and take him as my Satguru. So that is one of those amazing blessings and grace of the divine that is difficult to express. I don't normally share that a lot, but it's very important because that shows how in that level there is no difference. Yes, Padmasambhava, he was an Indian tantric guru who established Nyingma in Tibet, but he's connected to my Satguru, who is from the Nath Sampradaya and from the Kriya Yoga Sampradaya, and has his own parampara, his own lineage, which is the Siddhanath parampara, which I'm part of. So it's all interconnected. So at that level, there is no difference in the sense that they're not trying to be better, or this is a better path, or that is the, a superior path. It's what's right for this particular person in this lifetime. And the great masters, they give opportunity to all of us to find the right path for us. Okay, whether it is the tantric path, whether it's the sutra path, or whether it's the kriya path, or a path of Gyan Yoga, or a bhakti path, or Kundalini Yoga path. I'll be talking more about Kundalini and Kriya Yoga next session, but there's so much interconnection that I find within all of these paths that I have experienced, and they have all helped me. So nothing was ever wasted. The sadhana that I did when I was doing the preliminary practices of the Nyingma Path were very helpful, are very helpful for me now in my doing Kriya to attain higher states of consciousness. Okay, so it all helps and it all works together. Okay. Now, I was talking, maybe you're not familiar with the Buddhist Tantra, but you may be familiar more with the Sutra Path. Okay, the Sutra Path is very much concerned with the generation of bodhicitta and the compassion and the realization of shunya. By the realization of shunya and experiencing shunya state, they achieve nirvana. Okay, similar to what in yoga we call the samadhi states. Okay, so the path of sutra is primarily a path of renunciation. And it is to renounce the senses, renounce the body, renounce all relative experiences, all relative phenomena, to reach the absolute, the real experience, to experience reality, which is devoid of characteristics. Okay, and that experience is of shunya. So that is the Sutra Path. And the Tantra Path, basically, in Tantra, to realize Tantra, I think it's good to examine a symbol of Tantra. And a symbol of Tantra that is very useful to meditate on is the Vajra. Okay, I don't know if you all know the Vajra. I don't have one handy right now here, but the Vajra is a symbol of the Tantric path. And the Vajra made a center, circular center, and then 5 prongs on this side, one side, 5 prongs on the other side. Okay. One side represents samsara, the phenomenal world of karma, the cycle of life and death, samsara. The other side represents nirvana, the state of shunya without characteristic. In the center is the tigle or bindu in the Hindu terminology would be considered a bindu. And basically, you understand when you look at the Vajra is that samsara flows into nirvana, nirvana flows into samsara, and they are transformation through the bindu or the tigle. And when you transform your impure vision into pure vision, what is considered samsara the world of suffering, is nirvana, the world of bliss and joy. Okay, so in Tantra, it's about transformation and it is about continuity. It's about not just attaining a state or having an experience of shunya. It's about carrying on through that. Okay, making use of everything in the samsara to attain nirvana, transform all your anger and all your negativity. Because in samsara, the 5 prongs are also called the 5 aggregates. Okay, and the other 5 side can be considered the 5 Dhyan Buddhas. Okay, so the transformation by meditating on the 5 Dhyan Buddhas, which you have the Akshobhya in the center, you have the Vairochan in the center, Akshobhya in the west, Akshobhya in the east, Amitabh in the west, okay, Amitabh Buddha in the west, the Akshobhya in the east. In the north is Amogha Siddhi, and in the south is Ratna Sambhava. In the center is pure Vairochan. Okay, so by meditating on these 5 Buddhas, the tantrics are able to transform the negativities, the experience, the impure vision of the samsara into a pure vision of sunya, of nirvana. Okay, so transformation is what Tantra is, the Buddhist Tantra focus on. Okay, so hope that helps you to understand a little bit. Obviously, any one of these things are a lifetime of study, and they are paths, huge paths with many, many different highways and byways. Okay, and one of the tantric paths is Nyingma path. Okay, founded by Padmasambhava. And what Padmasambhava taught is Dzogchen. And Dzogchen can be translated in Sanskrit would be Mahashanti, the great peace. Dzogchen is Mahashanti. It's a highest state, the highest state of a great perfection, Ati Yoga, or great perfection of Tantra is Dzogchen. And it is a state of Mahashanti. And in this path, it is not necessary to always have a guru guiding you, because it is called the path of self-liberation. But what you need a guru to transmit the initial pure awareness to you. When you have this experience of pure awareness within you, which is called Rigpa, when you experience Rigpa, then this pure awareness you can cultivate, grow, and this pure awareness, your own awareness, will guide you to the state of Mahashanti. Okay, so that's the Nyingma path of Tantra. Okay, now the Kagyu and Sakya, they have different ones. In the Kagyu, they have their state of high state is called Mahamudra. Okay, so it's a different state, a great seal. Okay, so, but at the highest level, they may be describing the same experience, but they use all these different terms and can be very confusing. Are you guys all confused? I hope not. I'm trying to cut through the confusion. Okay, so but in Tantra, there is the transformation. There is also in Tantra, different from Sutra, or what most people think about Sutra, is that in Tantra, they make use of energy. What in yoga we call pran, and in Tibetan they call lung. Okay, so the pran is used in their practices, even when they are doing transformation, whether outer or inner rituals, they make use of this energy, this pran. Now, it turns out if you study the sutras, the Buddhist scriptures of the Mahayana, you also find that they talk about energy, but they call it virya, which is one of the 7 limbs of enlightenment. So you've heard of the fourfold, I mean the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, Noble Path, but there's also the 7 limbs of enlightenment. Okay, and these 7 limbs, which are part of many sutras, talk about the 7 limbs of enlightenment. It starts with mindfulness. Then from mindfulness, when you achieve mindfulness, you go on to investigate relative phenomena. And when you have a clear understanding, a prajna of the phenomena, okay, then you apply virya, energy, pran. And when you have attained a state of virya, or where you have control of pran, you attain joy, the state of joy. Okay, and from joy, you attain tranquility. And from tranquility comes samadhi, a state of oneness, unity. And from samadhi, you attain equanimity. Okay, so this equanimity is a high type of samadhi, okay, which is in the shunya state. Right? So these are called the 7 limbs of enlightenment. And mindfulness is just the first, after you've attained full mindfulness, that's just the start on the journey towards equanimity, to shunya. So, but pran is on the path. So even in the sutra path, you have to make use of pran. But since most practitioners on the sutra path cannot even pass through the mindfulness stage, they cannot go through to the other stages. Whereas in the tantric path, which is called Vajrayana or the lightning path, they try to achieve the clear light of understanding to even get into the equanimity stage in one lifetime. Whereas in the sutra path, they say 100 lifetimes, maybe more, 1,000 lifetimes, carry on. So there's a different understanding of the path. And of course, I'm talking from the Vajrayana perspective. You have to forgive me because that's the one that I actually practice most of. Although I had read and studied about the sutras and the Theravada, the Hinayana, what we call the Hinayana, and the Mahayana. It's the Vajrayana that I actually practice. The others I only have some understanding, but not a practical understanding as much. So that's what my understanding is at this stage. Now, so I think that's what I want to share with you about the Buddhist Tantra. And then I'm going to circle back at the end to see how what I learned from the Buddhist Tantra may be used by you or helpful for you to in your practice and in your daily life. How can it help and applied in your practice and daily life? So we'll revisit that at the end. Now, a major group of Tantra is the Hindu Tantra. And I was exposed to Hindu Tantra later than the Buddhist Tantra. And it was in the, I think like 1990 or 91, I actually took a series of workshops and seminars with a Pandit Rajmani from the Himalayan Institute. And he was a disciple of Swami Rama, and very knowledgeable, erudite teacher. And he introduced me a lot to mantra vidya, okay, the science of mantras. Okay. Also to Shri Chakra and the Shri Vidya. Okay, Shri Chakra, that is the Shri Yantra. You may see that the auspicious symbol with many interlaced triangles. It's a very auspicious and deep symbol. And this yantra is used in meditation. Okay, so there's a whole path for just focusing on this Sri Chakra. Okay, so I took some workshops, and I think primarily I learned a lot about the different types of tantras in India, and how they work and what they do. Okay, so it's interesting to understand that almost most of the tools we use in yoga, in Kundalini or Kriya Yoga, they actually are common, and a lot of them come from the great tantric masters of India. Okay, almost all the knowledge, the major knowledge we know about the chakras, nadis, prana, all the subtle body things come from their tools of Tantra also. And they've been taken into yoga. But so there's a great overlap between that Tantra, the Hindu Tantra, and the yogic tradition. And they share a lot of the same masters, okay, as I will explain in a minute. Okay, and just so you know, I mean, the major text on chakra is called the Satchakra Nirupan, written in the Middle Ages, and it is a tantric work, but that's the major work that has all the details about all the chakras, comes from that particular book, and it's a tantric book. Another work that has earlier work that talked about chakras in detail is the Goraksha Shatak from Shiv Goraksha Babaji. Okay, and that is also a great work, but we will find out that actually the tantrics, or what we call tantrics, and siddhas are very connected, and also the Buddhist tradition, they actually consider many of the Nath yogis or siddhas in their own tradition also. So the Buddhists, they have 84 Mahasiddhas, and Machindranath and Gorakhnath and a few other Nath yogis from people think of as Hindu yogis. They are in the list of 84 Buddhist Mahasiddhas. Okay, so at that level, again, I'm saying it's lower practitioners who try to separate Buddhist, Hindu, and Tantra, yoga, and all these things into different ways, or try to compete with each other. Okay, they are all different paths, but it doesn't mean one is superior or not superior. It really depends on you, whether it's the right one for you. Okay, talking about the Hindu Tantra. So there are three types of Hindu Tantra. There is the Kawla tradition, and this tradition uses rituals, okay, and external symbols, and they do a lot of external pujas and ceremonies, yajnas, and they use external yantras, and they meditate on the Kundalini at the root chakra, and it's the sleeping Kundalini. The aim of the Kawla tradition is both vogue or pleasure and liberation, moksha. So they want to have both. Okay, so that's interesting, and it's a very difficult path to walk. Okay, to be able to have vogue, pleasure, and liberation in the same lifetime. Okay, but that's their aim. And in the Kawla tradition, there's the left-hand sect and the right-hand sect. The right-hand sect uses only pure substances, and the left hand uses what are considered impure substances, such as alcohol and other things. So that's the right and left-hand sects paths are actually only of the Kawla tradition. Got it. Then there is the Mishra path. The Mishra path is the one that takes both some external rituals, but they also focus on internal practices. Okay, so it's a middle way of totally internal and totally external, and it's called Mishra tradition. Okay, and the Mishras, they focus on the Divine Mother in the heart center. They also focus on Kundalini, Divine Mother Kundalini in the heart as an awakened Ishtadeva to guide you. Okay, so the Kundalini awakened in the heart center is your inner guide in the Mishra tradition. And in the Mishra tradition, they focus mostly on moksha, but they also are not, going to be, renouncing everything, or they will enjoy things. They will enjoy life, but not focus on enjoying life. That is the path of the Mishra Tantra. Then there is the Samaya Tantra. The Samaya path, they focus only on moksha. Okay, no pleasure, nothing. Okay, and they're dedicated to moksha, and they are totally internally oriented. They totally don't touch external rituals. They are not into anything external, and they focus on the divine at the crown center only. Okay, the Sahasrara chakra. So those are the three main tantric paths. Now, what is common in the Hindu Tantra that I want you to be able to understand, like, as I said, in the Hindu Tantra, in the Buddhist Tantra, there's interconnectedness, and there is the transformation, right? There's energy. Okay, so those three things are very much important parts of the Buddhist Tantra. Now, the Hindu Tantra, it's a weave, a tapestry. Everything is interconnected and everything is sacred. So interconnectedness is common, but it's a different type of interconnectedness. That in the way of the Buddhist, it's a continuity. Okay, whereas in the Hindu, it's a tapestry, like a big painting. If you rub one part off, the whole painting suffers. And that's how you look at life. That's how you look at everybody. Everybody is important. And that's the next part of the Hindu Tantra. The important concept is the concept of sacredness. Everything and everybody is sacred. You are sacred. Everything around us is sacred. Okay? So nothing is dirty or bad. Okay? So you can make use of your emotions. You can transform your emotions into spiritual energy, into spiritual prana. Okay? You can transform your sexual energy or your passions into love. Okay, so those are tantric concepts, transforming, also common with the Buddhists. So the Hindu and Buddhist tantras, they have that in common also. Interconnectedness, transformation. Okay, everything is sacred. So those are some of the things, that I learned from the study and somewhat practice. I did not practice the Hindu Tantra very much, except for the mantra yoga, the mantra yagna, and the mantra vidya. Okay, so Tantra, in Hindu Tantra, there is the mantra, and then there is yantra. Okay, for me, my body is my yantra, so I did not use external yantra. So in that way, I'm closer to the Samaya. But it's not that I'm against ritual. It's just that I never practiced very much about it. Okay, so if I was going to practice, I would probably go the middle way, okay, and do the Mishra path. Okay, so but I did not practice much with yantra, except the yantras of the Mahavidyas, the 10 divine goddesses. Those I did do practice on, and they have their own achievement and realization. Okay, but it's mostly on mantra, the vidya knowledge and accomplishments in mantra is very much part of the tantric path. Okay, now I was talking about the Nath yogis. Okay, so in the primordial sense, I mean, I'm going to transition because Machindranath, Matsyendranath, the Siddha of the fish, he's also called Meenath, Lupa, Siddha. He's considered a emanation or presence of the Buddha's Bodhisattva of compassion. So he's a emanation of the Avalok Itishvar, okay, that the Bodhisattva of compassion. And he is considered the god of rain in many parts of Nepal. The story is that Machindranath, he had a disciple, Gorakshanath, Babaji. Of course, I'll talk about that more next time. But Babaji is actually a manifestation and a avatar of Lord Shiva. And Machindranath had asked Lord Shiva for a disciple who could be greater than himself. And since he was already the greatest yogi on earth at that time, Lord Shiva actually came down and took himself down as his disciple so that he can grant this wish of his own disciple. So the connection between Machindranath and Gorakshanath is very complicated. So in the physical world, it would appear Gorakshanath is Machindranath's disciple, but in the higher realm, the Machindranath is the disciple of Gorakshanath. Okay, so they're very much connected, and many stories about that. Now, this one story is that Gorakshanath was traveling in an area of Nepal, and the people were very rude to him. You know how he goes around asking for food with his bowl, and they did not give him the respect due for a Nath or even a Siddha. So he decided that the karma of these people need to be worked out. So he gathered all the Nagas, the rain givers of Nepal, and he sat down on them. And for 12 years, he sat unmoving on the Nagas of Nepal, and no rain fell. And there was a great drought and great problems. And finally, one of the kings was advised to go and invite Machindranath to come to that area, and he would be able to give them rain. So when Machindranath actually came, Gorakshanath got up from his seat to pay respects to his physical guru and released all the rain nagas. And so it started to rain in Tibet. I mean, not in Tibet, in Nepal. So to this day, there's one day in a year that there's a great procession in the part of Nepal where they celebrate this particular event. And Machindranath is the god of rain in that area. But he's also considered a Buddhist bodhisattva. And he's also considered to be the founder of the Kawla Tantric tradition. So I talked about Kawla, Mishra, and Samaya. So Machindranath was also founded the Tantric tradition in India. So he's the founder of that as well. So he's like omnipresent in all these different areas. Okay, so he's influential in Buddhist and Hindu Tantra and in the Nath Sampradaya, because he also founded with his disciple Gorakhnath the Hatha Yoga. And he's the one who put all these chakras and nadis into the practice of Hatha Yoga and Kundalini Yoga. So that is Machindranath. Now, I have had some nice encounter, not directly with Machindranath, but has had his grace. Because when I visited a holy place of the Divine Mother, Jwalamukhi in northern India, I went to this Dharamsala. Now, Dharamsala is not just a city in India. Dharamsala actually means a pilgrimage site, okay, or a house for pilgrims. So I was actually staying at this Dharamsala, and it happens. And I was with my master, Yogi Raj, and a few other of his disciples. And it turns out that the Dharamsala was actually dedicated to Machindranath. We had no idea until a Nath yogi showed up, and every evening he would give a little talk, and he would show us the murti. There's a great statue of Machindranath on a fish, and they only reveal it at certain times of the day or in certain festivals. Okay, and it was very auspicious, and I was very happy. But then a few years later, I was visiting Aurangabad because I wanted to visit the Ellora caves and also one of the Shiva holy places there. Anyway, so I'm in Aurangabad in this hotel, and in the evening I walked around, and in the back I saw this sign for a Machindranath mandir. I walked over there. There's a great standing statue of Machindranath, and beside it was a building, and they actually had a little ashram there, and with people. And it just so happened that the head of the Machindranath sect had just come that evening, and he was going to give a satsang. And I had the good blessing to sit through a satsang with the head of the Machindranath sect. And so he was a holy person, and it was a very great experience and blessing of Machindranath, and totally unexpected. Okay, so again, everything is interconnected. Now, in northern India, there's the Nath tradition, and the Naths are these great perfect yogis. So the Naths are these perfected beings, And I've already mentioned two, like Machindranath and Gorakhnath. And there's a lot more. But the main are the 9th Naths, no Naths. But there are all sorts of other great Naths that have come in the many thousands of years. Even Lord Jesus had a Nath name. He was called the Ishanath. Okay, and his teacher in India was, or his Param teacher was Kal Agninath, a great yogi. And Kal Agninath was also the teacher of or master of Boganov. Okay, and Boganov is one of the later on had many stories, and he's included in the Siddha tradition of the South India. Okay, so want to transition a little bit to the Siddha tradition. Who are these Siddhas? Siddha in a particular way is, you can say they have cities, but it also means someone that has gone beyond the early stages of self-realization and God realization. They've attained perfection. Okay? So one of the great Siddhas, Tirumullah, he said, the one who lives in yoga, the one who in yoga sees the light and experiences the power, he is the perfect human being. He's a Siddha. Now, of course, Tirumullah himself was a Siddha. Now, I didn't know anything about these Siddhas or even Naths, okay, until especially for the Siddhas. Naths I only knew about when I met my master, Yogi Raj. And the Siddhas, especially the South India Siddhas, Tamil Siddhas, I was introduced to them by a senior teacher and fellow brother on the path, okay, Marshal Govindan, who is a disciple of Yogi Ramaya in South India. Okay, so he introduced me to these Siddhas, and we went on pilgrimages to South India a few times, and I had great experiences in South India, visiting the different Siddha sites. Okay, but one thing you have to understand is that these Siddhas were practically outcasts. Okay, the Siddhas followed no rules. Okay, when I looked at these Siddhas, they followed no rules. They didn't follow any single path. Okay, they were all focused on God, and they all walked their own way. One thing they had in common was they were also very much into immortality. Okay, so they taught, or they sung about the immortality of the physical body, transforming the physical body into a body of light. Okay, so that is the teaching of the Siddhas in Tamil Nadu, and it happens that is also something taught in the Tibetan tradition. They call it the rainbow body, whereas in South India is a body of light, and or an immortal body. So that's something in common. They all were experts in alchemy. Okay, of course, the greatest alchemy is not, transforming the lead into gold. It's actually transforming the physical body. Lead is the physical body into a body of immortality. That is the true alchemy. the alchemy of total transformation is transforming the physical body into a body of light. And the Siddhas were able to accomplish that. And by doing that, they lived thousands of years. Okay? One of the Siddhas, Boganov, he was active around 500 to 300 BC, you know, and he is supposed to have visited China, and he was called Bo Yang in China, and he would have met with, you know, great, and may even have taught alchemy and other practices to the Taoists in China. Okay, so that is Boganov. I had a great experience of Boganov, and in Palani. Palani is a town in South India. It is a town famous for its temple to Lord Muruga. Lord Muruga is the second son of Lord Shiva. Lord Muruga is a young person of 16 years old. He holds a veil, spear, okay, which is a symbol of the awakened Kundalini. He rides a peacock spread out. The peacock spreads its wings, its feathers. That is a symbol of all the awakened chakras. Okay, so Lord Muruga is a symbol of awakened, a warrior awakened in Kundalini, fully aware. Okay? He's a spiritual aspect of the divine, of Lord Shiva. Okay, so this is Lord Muruga. And I was visiting the Palani, and in order to go up to the temple, you have to walk barefoot, but also you have to wear, you cannot wear any clothing. You have to wear a dhoti, South Indian dhoti, and nothing underneath. So walk barefoot up to the temple. And it was a time of a great festival where people were, you know, celebrating by rolling around the floor. They do all sorts of tapasya to celebrate or show that they're devoted to Lord Muruga. And some of you in Malaysia would know that, because in the Batu caves at the front, that is Lord Muruga, right? And during Thaipusam, the people celebrate. During that time, it was around that time, and people would walk for 100 miles barefoot, and some would be doing grand prostrations for miles and miles, and going up the mountain to show their devotion to Lord Muruga. Anyway, when I went up to the temple and sat and meditate there, I had great vision and great experience with blessing of Lord Muruga, and a understanding of the connection between Lord Muruga and Babaji. So from my experience there, I saw the interconnectedness of the two, and they appeared to me together. So that was a great blessing. And then when I went to an adjoining building, there's a shrine to Boganov. Now, Boganov was the one who actually built or put together the murti for Lord Muruga thousands of years ago, and he used 9 poisonous materials, and he was able to, by alchemy, put it together. And this murti of Lord Muruga in those days, supposedly, if you did abhishek, the abhishek from the fluid, the milk, the water, whatever, from the abhishek, you can drink and cure all diseases. It was so powerful. Although it was made with 9 poisons, it was a great healing potion. Okay, so that was the work of Boganov. And I went to, and we had the arti and puja for Boganov. And when we finished, I was sitting outside on a corridor leading to the shrine, because you can't stay inside the inner shrine too long. After it's finished, you have to come out and or go away. So I sat down on the corridor, and it was a very rocky and uncomfortable corridor. And I mean, I tried to meditate. It was very difficult. And then all of a sudden, all my discomfort went away, and I felt myself transported in a different reality out of my body, and I felt the presence. I couldn't see Boganov, but I felt his presence, that I felt, oh, this is Boganov's presence. You know how it is, although I could not see him, I felt his presence, and it was very peaceful, calm. And it is said that Boganov, even to this day, is meditating in the mountain, in a cave somewhere inside Palani. I don't know if it's true or not, but I felt his presence very strongly. And then, of course, I came back to my body, and it became, I felt, oh my God, all the rocks and all the bad things that was paining my back and all that stuff. But the experience was beautiful. And that was my experience of, the experience of Lord Muruga went on. I mean, even after I went back to the hotel that night, I had a great energy move up and down my body, and a distinct feeling that I had blessings from the divine for visiting that location. Okay, now Boganov, he's considered also in the list of the 18 Siddhas, which there are many lists of 18 Siddhas in South India. There's not just one list. So, but he's almost in all the lists because he's so famous. Okay, and he's the one who said, if you want to achieve liberation and freedom from death, send your pran to the chakras. Meditate on your nadis and see the divine light, and you will achieve liberation. Okay, so Boganov definitely taught that one should focus on the chakras and the nadis in the subtle body in order to purify ourselves, and purify our energy body, can purify our mental body, and achieve freedom from death in that ways. So that was Boganov. Now, I also visited Chidambaram, which is a great temple to Lord Shiva, to the dancing Shiva, Nataraj. And it's a very holy place, did puja there, great experiences. But one of my great happiness, maybe very happy, was that I was able to meditate near where Tirumullah meditated. Tirumullah is also one of the great siddhas. The story of Tirumullah is very interesting. He was originally a Nath from northern India called Sundarnath. And he was sent by Lord Shiva down to South India. And while he was roaming in South India, he found some cows which were crying and, being very unhappy and listless. And he was wondering, what's wrong with these cows? And then he found that the cow herd had died. And so he said, what to do? These cows needs to go back to their pasture, okay, go home. Otherwise, the wolves, they will die out here, or something will kill them. So he decided to leave his body in a secure location, and then he was able to go transport himself into the dead body of the cow herd. And he understood that the cow herd was called Mullar. And he knew where the cow should go. And so he took the cows back home. And his wife was, or the wife of Mullar, scolded him. Why are you coming home so late? What's happened? Okay, the dinner is cold and all that. So he ate some food, and then he said, okay, hold on, I have to do something. He went out and he wanted to find his body so he can go back in there and leave. Okay, he'd done his good deed, so he said, I'm leaving. Okay, but he couldn't find his body, and he said, wow, what happened? What happened to my body? Then it occurred to him Lord Shiva had hidden the body because Lord Shiva wanted him to stay in the body of Mullar and teach in that body. Okay, so that the South Indian people would accept the teachings of yoga more easily from someone from the South India. So Mullar said, okay, I'm stuck with this body, so I'm going to do that. So he meditated, and then he started teaching, and over some years he wrote a great yoga treatise, a book called the Tirumullah. Okay, and it is a very long book on Hatha and Kundalini Yoga. Okay, it also talks about Vashi Yoga. So it's a very deep treatise on yogic practices. And because of his great knowledge and understanding, he was called Tirumullah. Okay, and after he's written, he meditated in Chidambaram for some years, and then he left. And he went back to his body. He found his body and went back as Sundarnath and left the body of Mullar, but after many, many years. So I had the experience of meditating there, and I did not have a vision of him, but I felt his blessing, and I felt a voice say, study and learn. And from then on, I had a greater understanding of the Tirumullah. Things which used to be very obtuse or non-understandable, I was able to look at it and understand it, well, to my satisfaction. Did not seem so mysterious anymore, and I was able to find some hidden ciphers and keys to understand this mysterious yoga treatise. Okay, because although it is very detailed and a lot is written in it, Tirumullah, like all the other siddhas, they wrote in what is called a twilight language, okay, which is that they hide things, and they used everyday language to explain very deep things. And because they're writing during the Kali Yuga, they decided that they did not want to leave these secret teachings in the hands of those who are not ready or those who might misuse them. Okay, so that's why they wrote in this twilight language. And you have to, in fact, that's the case. That's a similarity between the Siddhas and the Tantrics. The Tantrics also wrote in secret codes and secret languages. And the same with the Siddhas. So the great similarity. And as I said, some of the Siddhas were Tantrics. Okay, yogis were Tantrics, some Tantrics were Siddhas. I mean, it's all very interconnected. Okay, at the level of samadhi, okay, there is no Buddhist or Hindu, Siddha or Tantra. Okay, there's only the divine, the realization, the true self, the real experience. Is the experience of reality that counts, not labels or names and things like that, or which group you belong to. Don't make a big deal of those things. It's the experience that you can have and you have that is of importance. Okay, so there's a great Siddha called Pambati, the snake Siddha. He's a favorite of mine because he writes some outrageous stuff. And I won't quote some of his outrageous stuff because they can be like X-rated practically. Okay, but I want to, about Pambati is that he is supposed to be, and we don't know who he was, where he was from. We only know the songs and the verses that are kept from him. That means he wrote them and people have recorded them. Okay, his teachings in verses and songs. And it is said that he was a snake charmer. Okay, whatever that means. And then he had heard a story that there was a snake with a ruby in its head. And he said, I want to find that snake with a ruby and I'll be rich. So he went into the forest and he was looking for this snake with a ruby on its head. And by the blessings of the divine, he met with a great master and sage when he asked him, what are you doing in the forest? And Pambati said, I'm looking for a snake with a ruby in its head. And the master said, silly boy, okay, the snake is your kundalini. And when your kundalini rises to the crown chakra, that's where the jewel is. Okay, the jewel in the lotus is in your crown chakra. Om Mani Padme Hum. Well, he didn't say that. That's the Buddhist tradition. But that's the jewel in the lotus. Also the jewel in the head of the snake. Okay, so Pambati stayed and awakened, learned from this master and awakened his kundalini and became a Siddha. Okay, so Pambati said, what are you going to do with all your riches, as your houses and your fine clothing and your jewels? When the god of death comes calling, what are you going to do? How does your wealth help your dead body? Forget all that. Focus on the feet of the dancing Lord. Dance, O snake, dance. So in all his poems, he ends with O snake because, of the Kundalini or because of his name as Pambati Siddha. but he always ends his verses with "O snake." So that's an important teaching. I mean, what are we going to do with all the things we have? How does it help us? We can't take a dime with us, not even a penny. Something to ponder from the snake Siddha. Now, the Siddhas also didn't subscribe to caste system, and so they came from all different walks of life, and they would teach anybody who had the desire to reach God. And they didn't worship any particular god, except the divine Lord Shiva or Lord Muruga. No deities, smaller village idols or anything like that. And also they did not subscribe to rituals. So in that sense, they're closer to the Samaya Tantra, okay, because everything was happening within them. Okay, so the closest thing you could say would be in common is that they were all valued Kundalini, okay, which will lead to the next session next month when I talk about Kundalini and Kriya Yoga. So Siddhas and Naths and Tantrics, what can you learn from all of these? What can you do in this present time? Whatever your practice is, whatever you believe in, okay, all of us can agree that our practice would be better and our life would be better if we can control our mind. So one of the key aspects, like, you know, of all my experience and all my learning is that control your mind. As Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, the mind, when controlled, is your best friend. When uncontrolled, is your worst enemy. Because you're always with your mind 24/7. Even when you're asleep, the mind is there. So in your practice, you should incorporate aspects of concentration. In your life, you need to develop self-control, control your mind, or letting go of negativity. Don't say the first thing that comes into your mind. Don't act on your first thought. Some people say the first thought is the best thought. Maybe if you are in tune with your true self, but not necessarily otherwise. Okay. Most of the time, we react due to the karma, there's some scars in our minds, and the thoughts that come are harmful to us and to other people. So developing concentration, developing a mind that is controlled is very important for both the practice and your life. How you do it, well, depends on your sadhana, but almost all paths have some way of developing control over the mind. Okay, and the more you practice, the more you find that it's your mind that is preventing you from doing a great practice, because your mind comes up with doubts. Are you doing it correctly? Or your mind comes out with thoughts that make you daydream into something else, so that you are neglecting the practice itself, whether it's a breathing practice, whether it's a visualization practice. Okay, so the mind is very important. The siddhas, one of the siddhas said, when I began my practice, I looked down on my body. I thought it was a very unimportant thing. Now I realize the body is sacred. We should take good care of it. It is the temple of God. So another lesson is to take good care of your body. Exercise regularly, eat well, cultivate herbs which can help you develop stronger body and maybe even a stronger nervous system, which will be helpful for your mind. Okay, herbs cannot directly affect your mind, but by affecting the nervous system is the organ for your mind. So if you affect the nervous system, you'll be able to affect the mind too. Okay, so your body is sacred. It's a temple of God. Take good care of it. Right? So that will help you in your life. Exercise. Do asanas if you can, or other types of exercise. Don't try to suppress your negative emotions. Try to transform them. Okay? That is the aspect of Tantra. Transform your negativity into spiritual energy. Okay, so transformation. Investigate how you can transform them. Obviously, in Kundalini Yoga and Kriya Yoga, we have techniques which do this transformation. Okay, in Bhakti Yoga, to chanting, Mantra Yoga, through the mantras. Okay. In Karma Yoga, we offer up all our works to the divine. Okay. And not take credit for anything that we do, and we always look after other people. That automatically purifies the mind. Okay. Transforms your emotions. Developing compassion. That transforms your emotions. If you're doing yoga, you should study the yam and the niyam. Okay, I actually wrote a book on yam and niyam many years ago called The Paths of Purification and Transformation. This, I think I wrote it maybe 16, 17 years ago. You should really study that, and you will learn about how to transform the negative emotions and energy, and cultivate positive mindsets like contentment and such. Okay, so that's something that you can pursue yourself. So I think, I'm of course forgetting, but assuming that you already have energy in your practice. Because if you're doing Kriya Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, or most other of these, you have practices that utilize prana. That is very important in your practice, that there is something that will help you expand your prana. Without prana, you cannot attain higher states of consciousness. Even in the Sutra path, Tantric path, or any other yogic path, you need the prana, and you have to develop the prana. Understand your chakras and your nadis. Learn about your chakras and nadis. Okay, so that is important for your practice. In your daily life, try to apply what you have felt or learned in your practice and give it into your daily life. Look at everybody as divine. See everybody as divine and a potential teacher for you. Somebody shouts at you, don't shout back. Say, okay, what can I learn from this? Is this person having a bad day, or is he trying to teach me something? Okay, so try to control your automatic reaction so that you are living life in a more enlightened level. Okay, so learn from everyone. Treat everything as sacred. Your body is sacred. Everything around you is sacred. Nothing is dirty or bad. Okay? They just are what they are. So if you feel that you're sacred, when you do your healing practice, you have more confidence in them. If you feel that you're inadequate, you will have doubt, and your healing will not work as well. Okay, so it's very important to have the mindset of sacredness in what you do, who you are. And that is a tantric mindset. But even if you don't do any tantra, it'll help you in everything you do. Anandam anandakara prasanam yana swarupam nijabodha rupam yogendra mediam bhavarogya vaidyam shrimat gurum nityam maham bhajami. Om. So I'm going to end here. I hope you enjoyed this talk and learned something from it, from what I can share with you. And let me know your feedback. If there's something else you need to know or you want to ask me any questions, feel free to email me. Okay. So blessings of the divine, blessings of my Satguru, blessings of Babaji, blessings of Padmasambhava. Om. Good night. Go in peace. And stay safe. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.